Hey there YouTube. Today I'm going to show you how to replace your front brake cable control on a 1986 Yamaha YFM225. So I ordered this cable on Amazon. I'll put the link in the description, of course, and the ASIN number right here. This was $30 shipped. Prices fluctuate, but if it's around $30, it's not a bad deal. I actually couldn't find the OEM part for this, or I would have bought it since it is a brake cable. But I guess having off-brand front brakes is better than no front brakes, because right now my front brake cable is seized. So the first step, of course, is to undo these two Phillips screws here. They are tiny and weak and pretty rusted, so I might break them off, but we'll see. I would recommend hitting this with PB Blaster for weeks and weeks if you have the time. I do not, so I'm going to use the good old universal wrench. Now be careful not to burn the wiring that's up here. Oh yeah, and the front of the old unit here is also a clear plastic. I'll talk about that later, but try not to melt that, as you can see. I'm going to attempt to use a number 2 Phillips. So this screw is going to be very hot. Let's hope it doesn't fall on my leg. Now I'm going to take that chance. Oh, good call. Alright, so I got that last screw out. The head is starting to strip, so I'm not going to be reusing it, so I have to find a screw of this thread. Alright, so unfortunately I couldn't find this screw thread in my old man's estate sale assortment of screws. But luckily I have a vise and a bolt that is big enough to go through the hole if I drill it out. And a hacksaw. So you just put the bolt in the vise, clamp it down on the threads that you're not going to use anymore because you can destroy them. Make sure it's nice and tight. And start hacking. And then just unscrew the bolt and it'll fix your threads. Unscrew the nut, I should say. And then you feel it form the threads, and there, the threads are fixed. Alright, luckily the old brake cable is totally seized and crappy, so I don't have to fuss much with taking it off. Make sure you don't damage this part, because the kit doesn't actually come with that part, just a forewarning. Alright, now I'm going to drill out the old holes. Alright, and next you take off the old cables from the drums. So you just unscrew this wing nut here, not lose it, and that'll allow you to take this off. Looks like this is actually held on with a little C-clamp There we go. Alright, now that we got them both here, let's compare the original to the aftermarket. The aftermarket does feel a lot cheaper. It's like a very light aluminum. The original looks like it has a plastic clear cover. You can kind of see through it. Not too well though. It looks like, now that I'm looking at this, that this had screws so that you could actually take this cover off and lube it, I bet. Because I can't see any other purpose for this being openable. Openable? Accessible? Yeah. But I never did that, so that's probably why I have to replace it. The new one has those same two holes. It's just this is metal instead of plastic, which is fine. This plate does come off, so yeah. So here's the original Yamaha part, and now I kind of realize why they did plastic, because this is aluminum. This magnet doesn't stick to the old one, so that way the track in there doesn't rust. And plastic was probably cheaper than aluminum at the time. It looks like the off-brand Chinese one uses aluminum as well for the actual track that the cable slides in, but the cover here is totally steel. I took the plastic cover off so you can see what it looks like inside of here. It's very simple. It's just one line that pulls on these two lines. It looks like the new one actually has a spring inside of it, whereas the original did not. Well, side by side. It also should be noted that the new part does not have a cover of any kind, whereas the Yamaha one had this rubber gasket that went over the top of it. So I don't see any reason why crud is not going to get down into that hole. So that's kind of sucky. But like I said, I cannot find this Yamaha part. In this case, I think it's going to be worth the money for OEM, if you can find it. And I tried to take the grommet off and use it on the new part, but it was just so brittle that it shredded. Alright, enough playing around, let's get this back together. Alright, so I fished the line up through, and now I'm going to attach it to the handlebar. There is a little hole underneath it here, you just slide the cable into first. And then once that's started, make sure that your adjuster is all the way in. Has to be all the way in. And then the slots on the adjuster are aligned with the slot in the handlebar. Okay, and then you can turn your adjuster out to tension it. And then don't forget to lock your adjuster. So this part will be different for you since you'll just be putting the screws back in here. I have to use the bolts that I made. So now, even though I'm using screws, the next person that has to do this, since these are stainless steel, won't have the problem that I had. There we go. Plus they can use a socket if they want. So the GoPro camera died, so I finished the project, which by finishing the project it wasn't that hard. You just put this cable into the sleeve that we vacated there, the connector on the drum, and then put this part through there. It'll slide right through, and then tighten the nut down on it. And basically after that it's just a lot of adjusting. So tighten these up equally, go right around, test the brakes of course. And my adjustment took a lot more cable than I thought it should. So I'm probably gonna have to move this lever to give myself some more slack. But I finally got it dialed in after riding around the yard for a while. So the cables, make sure that you put them through these little Make sure you put them through these little bars here that hold them in place. That'll keep them from hitting your wheel. And yeah, left one cables down and goes to the left one, right one goes down and goes to the right one. Like I said, if you can find the OEM part, go ahead and try to find it, but this part works pretty good. Of course, I'll show some footage of me stopping now. I realize that this is never going to equal the quality of a hydraulic brake system on newer ATVs, and that's okay as long as I got my foot pedal. But you know, you gotta deal with what you got. Thanks for watching.